Dr. Pan came on after the worship happened, and the first thing he said was, "I have no conflicts of interest here to report, but Dr. Sears does. He has something that he wants to sell." And I just thought, you have got to be kidding me. There's no way that man is just living on a plain old pediatrician salary. And even if he is, we know that they're giving out vaccines in order to boost their income. So that's just a pathetic way to start, and it's a premeditated way to just start knocking on Dr. Sears. Then we were told that the Wakefield paper was fraudulent, and that he actually faked the data, and it was a poorly written paper. Now, as far as I'm concerned, this guy never read the paper. So there's a lie somewhere in here, because had he read the paper, he would know that if you want to knock on Dr. Wakefield, you can knock on him maybe about the shoes he wears or something, but not the way he writes and not the way he speaks. I am sorry. This is a man who has been incredibly well educated and knows how to write a scientific paper. So talk to the hand. But saying that he faked the data is where we know that he never read the paper, because he should know that a series of case reports does not count as data. Everybody who thinks about it should know that. Data requires numbers generation. It usually requires large amounts of people in a study, and this was simply a pilot study looking at certain characteristics of autistic children and endoscoping them. That's all it was, and it only concluded saying that more research is needed. All the things that Pan and Offit say just show me that if they ever read the paper, they only read the abstract, and if they even did that, they clearly don't know anything about it. And we all know that Dr. Offit reviewed the movie Vaxxed without seeing it. So what he said about that paper, he said that others abetted Andy's cause, including Dr. Sears and Dr. Gordon, who is Jenny, and he doesn't even know how to say her name. He kept calling her Jenny McCarty. And that Dr. Gordon is her child's doctor, and that those are the kinds of people that have abetted Dr. Wakefield's cause. And he said, as a result of this, that measles is now endemic in the UK thanks to Dr. Wakefield.
What?
Yes.
Are you serious?
And you know what? Everyone in the audience believes it now. They all believe that. And I know, because when I was a medical student and a resident, if I was in that room, anyone who's sitting down in the front, I would have believed what they said. I would have had no reason not to. Dr. Offit was introduced, and this is a direct quote, as the leading voice in our country for vaccination. So take note, everybody, that the leading voice in our country tells a father with vaccine-injured child to get the F out of here, except he didn't say it that way. And then he started with, well, if any of you aren't aware, there's something going on across the street. Look out the window and you'll see the Vax bus. Then everybody laughed. Okay, so what I wanted to show you is a picture that probably most people are familiar with, but just for visual purpose. This picture here is a picture by James Gilray, and he was a cartoon satirist. And he did this cartoon back in the days of Jenner and smallpox because people were concerned, and they were voicing their concerns. And as a result, there was this idea, what probably wasn't even really the idea, but what the satirist was saying is that people are getting injected with cowpox, and as you can see, pieces of cow are starting to grow out of them. One woman has cow face coming out of her. Up here, she has a cow face coming out of her face. Down here, there's a cow coming out of the person's behind. So cow out of the arm here, there's cow hoof coming out. Okay, so, and then in the middle we have a figure, and if Paul Offit had studied this picture better, he would have known that this is not a depiction of Jenner, but of someone named Patterson. So anyway, Dr. Offit didn't study this picture any more than he studied Andy's paper. But what I want to bring this up for is because what he said about this was, well, it's really very silly, of course. Now we can look at it and really realize how implausible it is for a human being to be injected with cowpox and turn into a cow. And everybody laughed, and he said it's absolutely implausible. But it's just as implausible that vaccines cause autism. So I would like to challenge Dr. Offit to a controlled experiment. I think that, and I really feel bad about the monkeys. Maybe afterwards we can give them a nice life, but I would like to take enough monkeys to generate this point. If not, maybe we could start with a smaller animal, perhaps a guinea pig or something like that. And I think Dr. Offit should be in charge of the guinea pig that gets only the smallpox vaccine, and I should be in charge of the animals that get the other vaccines. And I want to see if he can turn any of those animals into cows, and we'll see if I can turn any of my animals autistic. And that's the challenge. Or dead. And that's the challenge. Well, he'll probably kill them with the smallpox vaccine, but if you add the entire schedule together, I'm quite sure that the arm that would be under my surveillance would develop.
You know as well as I do, Offit is not going to accept this
and stop it anyway, because if you know me, you know that I can't stand torturing animals. Right. But I'm just saying this for the sake of argument that that's how it would happen. Another thing he said was that vaccination was not a lucrative business. And I want to know where Merck got $18 million to pay him. And presumably...
Say that amount again?
$18 million?
$18 million?
Yes, to pay Dr. Offit his share of the royalties for the patent.
Dr. Offit, so everyone's absolutely crystal clear on here, got $18 million from Merck.
Read the Philly Mag that I referred to earlier, and in there he says verbatim, I felt like I won the lottery. Because nobody ever expects to make money on inventing a vaccine. So I don't understand if vaccine is not a lucrative business. I know that actually that Dr. Salk did not make a whole lot of money on his invention because that vaccine wasn't owned by him in any way. And I know that Dr. Offit was working for the University of Pennsylvania, but he personally walked away with something in the range of $18 million per that article that I was telling you about.
I'm sure that Mark Black's has written an article on that.
Yeah, I mean, it's at least $18 million, and now, I mean, come on, now he's the leading voice in our country for vaccination. Do you think he's not getting anything for that? Okay, so he was going through this slide where he was talking about Barbara Loe Fisher and about all the claims that she's made about which vaccines are associated with which diseases in particular. And then he got down to the HPV vaccine, and he starts going, oh, this has been claimed to have caused blood clots, strokes. Of course, he didn't say death, but he named all the other things the HPV vaccine has been accused of. And then he launched into this little explosion where he said, if you had to pick a vaccine besides the flu shot that has protected against more death than any other vaccine, it would be HPV. Now, mind you, can we have the violins playing for Merck? Because Merck, of course, maybe Merck has to earn the money to pay him the $18 million. I don't know. Protected against more death than any other vaccine, it would be HPV. But only 40% of girls get 3 doses of that vaccine, and 20% of boys. It is the most embarrassing vaccine. Well, I have to agree with that, but not for the same reasons. Every year, because of under-vaccination, 2,000 children will grow up to have cancer from which they could die because they don't get the vaccine. Now that is very implausible, what he is saying there. We have never proven that this vaccine prevents one case of cancer. It's not been proven. It's been hypothesized that if you slow down the HPV carriage rate, that you can slow down the development of the CIN 1 and 2, and theoretically slow down the cancer development. But we're vaccinating 9 to 12-year-olds. We already know that in a short period of time that vaccine has a problem in that the non-vaccine cancer-associated strains are infecting these people now. So what he says is so full of holes it makes Swiss cheese look solid, okay? So
where are the lawyers in America that are not taking these people out?
Oh, I'll tell you.
Should be in prison.
No, I want to tell you where the lawyers and the money are. Apparently, they're all over with Barbara Loe Fisher and NVIC, because NVIC is a well-funded, well-organized, lawyer-backed organization, as opposed to Merck and the University of Pennsylvania and Dr. Offit. And really, that's all I could stomach today, and I will just leave you with that.
That's shocking. So you're saying that apart from the flu vaccine, which has saved so many lives, well, we've seen nothing but devastation from the flu vaccine here on Earth. And then the Gardasil, which, as everybody knows, is a wicked, wicked vaccine. We must not let these people get away with being able to have this voice in America. We have to stop them. Because they are literally killing, they're murderers. I don't care what I say, because what's the worst you can do? Deport me? That's about it. And well, it's the truth, though. It is the truth. And they're not even prepared to come out and talk to us or to see the names on the bus, see the pictures of the staff that have died there from the Gardasil.
You know what really bothers me about it all? Is that Paul Offit is he's an infectious disease specialist. Presumably he understands something about the immune system. And presumably he understands how the influenza vaccine affects immunity, affects the cell-mediated immunity, the CD8 cells, and the antibody generation, and how that all feeds back onto the CD8 cells, and what Dr. Bodaways and Dr. I want to say Hewitt, it's not Hewitt though. There are two people who it's two groups of conventional, very pro-vaccine scientists who have written on what they have found in populations that are vaccinated, that vaccine can protect you, if you're lucky, against the strains that are circulating that year. But that year and subsequent years, the vaccinated are more likely to develop pandemic strains. And we know from other well-designed, controlled studies that while that vaccine may potentially, in maybe 20 to 40% of people, prevent you from getting the exact strain you were vaccinated for that year, that you are 4 to 5 times more susceptible to getting non-influenza virus infections, some of which are very nasty and very debilitating. So it just tells me that he's, this is where I just go, wait a minute. He has to understand this. He's an intelligent person. He's read the medical literature. This has to be deliberate. This has to be a deliberate lie on his part. I would come head to head to him any time to debate the influenza vaccine, because he can't win, because his own colleagues are publishing the failures of this vaccine. His own colleagues, Ab Osterhaus, who started MGUS, who I've talked about in Copenhagen, one of the most pro-vaccine people on the planet, that has created an organization to protect drug companies and counter anti-vaccination sentiment, has been the co-author of one of the papers I'm talking about. What does Paul Offit have to say about these papers? And we'll post them on the website so everybody can see them. I've talked about it in my Iceland talk. I show the PMID numbers. I show exactly, I'm not cherry picking, I'm not extrapolating. The science is there to prove that these vaccines feed back into the immune system so that you will not have memory immunity in the second year. End of story.
Alright, so that's what happens when you come on the bus for a week. You get angry. Josh is taking a picture. What's happened to my head? It comes off. Nice picking. Where can people see your pictures?
I am angry.
Of course you're angry.
You know why I'm angry? I'm angry because these people know better, because they have the ability to read the science, and they keep tossing the word science around. I can't tell you how many times I heard the word science. And I'm angry because I have taken more time out of my life to study vaccines than I have studied anything, including nephrology, including anatomy, including neurology, including any other subject in medicine. Solidly, 8 to 12 hours a day, I read vaccine literature. And these people are not saying true things, and they're calling it science. That's why I'm angry. And then I look at these walls, and I see these babies that are not sick, that are looking at the camera, and they're underground, or they're incinerating now, they're gone after vaccine. And then the people outside are ridiculed and called delusional. And the only thing we're allowed to talk about is autism, not death, not blood clots, not the fact that Bears has paid out a ton of money on other kinds of injuries besides autism. What immunologists know is actually only the tip of the iceberg. And vaccines don't necessarily save lives. Vaccines are not safe. Vaccines don't protect the way we're told they protect. Yet the public is instilled with fear every step of the way, to the point that very well educated people fall prey to this in the doctor's office in the name of science. scientism. It's a religion, scientism.
Okay, guys, we're really getting to them now. The Vax bus is really starting to annoy them. We're really becoming more than just a little bus travelling around that they think will go away. Your stories, you've got to keep them coming.
We need you guys. We really need you guys to tell your story. And Suzanne, I don't know that I can put it better than the way that Suzanne put it. We all know this. We need you guys to reach out in your communities and get those people who are on the fence to reach out to us, to share their stories with us for the new year. Let that be your New Year's resolution, that you are going to provide the power that you have, the power of your story, to this community. This is happening, you guys. I mean, in a big way, this is happening. This is happening in a way that it has not happened